Okay, 2-pound bowls. Bowls.
2-pound moles.
So is that a 2-pound?
Yes, that's a 2-pound.
Feels so quiet.
It's not even
It is.
on.
We're going the wrong way, aren't we?
No, you're going the right
Am I
way.
going the right way?
My right way.
Ah,
Ew.
you must have been sitting over here, were you?
Nope, this one.
Oh, were you?
This is my baby.
They want to go the other way first. Or maybe I always get on when it's on my bar's been on.
Always, I'm always on this one. Always on this one.
We have to make sure that Artie leaves a little note saying that I was here last.
I was on, so when you were.
And do you go the other way?
Hey, don't leave me out of this.
Okay. Has anybody tried coning?
Yep.
Yeah? Does it help a little bit? Yeah?
Yeah.
That's good.
So you're pressing together with the bottom parts of your hands there?
Yeah, I'm kind of squeezing up and just, I'm kind of extending my thumbs because if you probably noticed, the clay will just sort of start moving everywhere. You want to support it. I'm exaggerating how high you'd really have to come up to cone. And then it's just pushing back over a little bit off center. And then when it compresses up, you're just kind of more pressure straight down.
The purpose of combing is so it's kind of more wedged.
Yeah, it's a way of wedging, compressing the clay. Okay, so just like the mugs that you're going to be doing and the cylinders that we were doing, some of you may have realized that if, at this point, if you've got a mass of clay that's a lot wider, you're going to have a cylinder that's a lot wider when you start opening it up, right? So right at this point, you start thinking about the foot of the bowl. How wide is it going to be? So think about that, how that informs this, and you may find you've got a more of a taller mound than usual, than a low, wide one. So Ari was talking about what was it called?
Oh, a blade?
A blate. So a blate would have probably a wider mound, okay? So, same sort of approach as a cylinder. Just gonna go. But in the cylinder we go to about the thickness of a pencil. On a bowl you want to probably open up to about 2 pencils so that we can allow a foot to be trimmed on there. So that's a generous amount.
Halfway
Okay.
through the pin tool.
Yeah. Maybe take that down just a bit. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm just going to compress this, round it. So on a cylinder, we want to start in the center and then drag back to us, and we want to keep our fingers at the equal distance parallel to the wheel head. Right at this point now we start envisioning the inside profile of the bowl. Is it going to be sort of a flatter bottom and then slowly coming up, or is it going to start right from the very center and come up? I'm thinking more of starting right at the center and coming up. So that means that my fingers have to start moving up as they're being pulled out at the same time. So I'm not only pulling back, but I'm also raising my fingers up, okay?
Are you doing anything with your thumbs?
No, my thumbs are just hiding in behind.
Oh.
They're talking to each other, giving each other support, moral support.
So you're not squeezing the clay, you're just moving it.
I'm just moving the clay. it's pretty shallow. Haven't really done a whole lot here comparatively to the way things work with our cylinders. But you'll notice that there's no corners. There's just a swell down there, okay? So I'm going to start down here now, my next pull. I'm not starting at the center. I'm kind of coming over here right to the shoulder where it just starts to raise up. That's where I'm actually going to start my inside pull with my fingers. I'm going to actually scoop this clay that's on the outside here, push it up, and I'm going to start pulling. So each consecutive pull after that is going to start right where the clay starts to lift off the wheel head. We're not going to necessarily go back to the center here. There's nothing really to pull because we're leaving that little hockey puck. So getting a good bite of the clay on the outside. First pull. And with the bowls, you really want to be conscious of the lip well in advance of the final pull. So I'm probably 3 pulls away from finishing this. I already want to start being mindful of the lip being under control, okay? Again, I'm scooping most of the clay on the outside, and I'm supporting on the inside. I'm not digging in on the inside. I'm kind of digging in on the outside, and this finger is being firm, and we're just trying to really concentrate on that inside profile. There's 2 pulls. You may have noticed that the speed of, I start out with some speed, and then I slow down as I get to the top. I like to use the flexible ribs. You can throw bowls without using ribs. I kind of like to use them. This just, and the reason I like a flexible rib is that it actually goes in and compresses.
You're pulling towards you with the rib, Scott?
I'm flexing the rib, and it's catching the clay as it goes by. And this is where I should have done this actually a step back. Compressing the bottom there as well, like I was telling you about.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You're still keeping the wall vertical, right?
Yeah,
Vertical on an angle.
this part of the wall?
Yeah, that from outside,
Or,
what I can see.
yeah. So looking at the inside profile of the bowl, our next pull really is just going to be from about this part up, okay? We've got that bottom shoulder already defined, and also, at this point, you probably want to deal with the lip. So here's probably our last pull. And I'm coming right over to where the clay sort of leaves the hockey puck on the inside, okay? And there should be a nice even transition from the sides coming right down into the bottom. There shouldn't be a little shoulder here, okay? So there's lots of clay that I've left on the outside here. We could just take our cutting wire now and pull this right off the wheel head, and that would be fine. but there is room here. And obviously, we're limited by the flange of the bowl, how wide it is. We can't come down like we did with the cylinder, so if you can, come in just a little bit and take some of that extra clay off right now. That's going to give us a nice dry spot to put our fingers under too. It seems like it hasn't even been completely thrown, right? When we're used to our cylinders, there's so much clay down here. But that's basically it. We're really just throwing from, once we open up the bottom, we're just throwing from the sides. We're just expanding that little side area.
Do you have dimensions that you want us to do?
Yeah, I think I've got about 4.5 inches tall, so about this tall, and any sort of width beyond that, okay? If you get the height first, the width is kind of going to fall into place. So don't be afraid to distort this a little bit. If it folds up on you a little bit, it will always, you can always adjust that when afterwards. So, let's just put this back. You'll find the bowls just want to spring off the wheel. So, like I said, we were just kind of pulling just from this area here, so when we would come in to trim now, we noticed that the wall thickness starts to get thick right here. So we would be trimming something like that off, and this is where our foot would be. Okay? So as you get more proficient at throwing bowls, you'll find ways to actually minimize this amount of clay. Rather than leaving this on there to trim it off, you might actually be able to come in even prematurely at your second pull and kind of taper this down a little bit with your spear. You still have to leave a lot of clay here to support this swell. Otherwise, your bowl is just going to fall over. And this is kind of the shoulder thing that I'm talking about here. Quite often at the beginning, you'll find that this is what happens, and you'll get this little bump in here, and that's maybe from pushing the walls out too much, making them too thin here, or after you've opened up the clay, you change the profile of this bottom part. When I first centered the clay and then opened it up, I started thinking about what the inside profile of the bowl was going to be at that point, and it's kind of set. And if you go back after 2 pulls and say, oh, you know what, I want to make this a little wider or change it, you'll find that you get these, it's like changing the foundation of your house. And it just, you won't be able to get it back again. You just keep pushing this out, and this gets out wider. You just keep pushing this down, and this one keeps getting wider. So once you've done that first one, stay away from it and start pulling just from this part up. Okay? Some mugs?
Yeah.
Want to do a mug?
Do some bugs.
Some bugs? So these ones are 1 1/4 pound balls.